If you're an online coach and you want one thing, how to grow your business, this episode is going to be for you. I'm going to go through some specific and tactical things that you can take away. So make sure you've got a pen and paper ready so you can make notes as you go through this. The one ask I have is if you take value from this, you take a screenshot of it, you share it to stories on Instagram to send more people a podcast that we can help scale and grow their business for free on here. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is this. If you're focusing on growing your business, which a lot of people tell me they are, the two things you want to look at, actually three things I would look at. Number one is your calendar. What is in your calendar and what does your calendar look like? And here is a huge hack that I personally have implemented about 6 months ago. Well, a couple of different ones. One is make sure you have everything in there. So times you're working out, how long for, all your team meetings, sales calls, blocks of when you're doing check-ins, making content, whatever it might be. Now, what you want to do is you want to color code these with different tags, like filming, making podcasts, sales calls, coaching calls, whatever it might be. Now, the beauty of this with Google is it will then give you a weekly summary of exactly how long you're spending on each task. And it will give you monthly summaries, and you can summarize over a long period of time. And what we want to be focused on doing constantly if we're looking to grow the business is this. We want to focus on working on the business, not in the business. Now, when you're setting your day out, the way I would suggest you do this is you put all the tasks that actually build the business first thing in the morning. So you get the most important shit done first, like GSD, get shit done. The second thing you want to do is plan tomorrow today. So at the end of every day, plan the 2 to 3 most important things you need to get done tomorrow. You do those two things and you have some guidance in terms of what the hell you're doing with your business, it becomes very easy to succeed. And this is the first thing I look at in terms of people's businesses is, okay, cool, show me your calendar. And I can tell what the problem is a lot of time when I review people's businesses in their calendars. So I have a lot of clients, for example, might be making £40,000 a month. I'm like, cool, show me a calendar. And they're doing six to 10 sales calls a day, every day. I'm like, well, that's the problem because you're stuck because you can't, book more sales calls and you're stuck taking sales calls. This is zero leverage. Therefore, the next thing we need to do is then hire someone to help with sales calls, which is one of the huge things we do in 7-figure scaling systems, is help people build sales teams. The second thing I would do is actually look at your bank account. Where do you spend money? Do you invest into the business? Do you invest into mentors? Do you invest into personal development? Do you invest into coaches to help you in terms of your own training, your own nutrition, your own knowledge? I've personally spent over $250,000 on my own mentoring, development, training to become the greatest version of myself. And that $250,000 has probably generated $11.5 to $12 million today. It's a big return, a very, very big return. And the reality is, you watching this right now, how much have you put into yourself? Because if you're not willing to spend money into yourself, into your own skills and into improving who you are, then ultimately, why should your clients? An interesting paradigm to think about. And the third thing, which I think is an interesting one, is if you actually go onto your YouTube, look at your watch history, look at the most recent things you've watched. And this will actually tell you in terms of where your focus is. If you're watching bullshit vlogs, you're watching fucking cat videos, you're watching all this type of crap, this is going to give you a big indication in terms of where your time and attention is. If you're actually, say, watching like Charlie Johnson scaling systems in terms of like videos to actually learn, that will give you an indication in terms of where you're putting your attention. And I'm going to give an example in terms of what my last videos are I've watched. One, Alex Hormozy, how to sell expensive shit. One's on stoicism. The others are motivational gym stuff, so I'm not really going to count that because I listen to that when I'm there. Stuff from Dan Martell. I listen to Mozart when I'm focusing on work. And then positive and like learning podcasts. This particular one's Chris Williamson. And this is where you can actually see where you're putting your time and attention. Because if you're looking at bullshit online and you're watching Sam Sulek videos but you want to grow your business, you're not putting your time and attention the right way. And I'll tell you a great story. This is a story about my friend Dave. Now, Dave came out to stay with me in Dubai. Dave really likes football. I used to really like football. And I was sitting there and he was sitting on the sofa and he was watching football on the sofa, something I've never done in Dubai. And I was sitting there on my iPad and I was watching videos on sales training. And he turned around and he looked at me. He's like, Charlie, do you know why you are where you are and where I am where I am? And I was like, no, what do you mean? And he's like, well, look what I'm watching, look what you're watching. And this is an example in terms of these small little things you do every day compound. Because if you learn little bits of knowledge every single day, they stack on top of each other. And it's like a force multiplier. And this is why you have to understand that everything you have and everything you do is either taking you towards where you want to go or away from where you want to go. And this is ultimately your choice. And in 3 to 5 years, the choices you make today and you're making every single day right now will define exactly where you are. And exactly the same for me. And the biggest regret you can have is the regret of not becoming the greatest version of yourself. And I think Ed Mylett talks about it. It's like the biggest fear you can have is the day you die, you meet the person you could have become. And when you start to think like that, that's very deep. Now, if we look about growing the business, I used to do this a lot in my estate agency days, is the input and output equation. So long story short, I went into becoming an estate agent very young, maybe like 20 years old. I became the branch manager like retardedly young at like 22. One of these simple hacks, the reason why I was like the top performing consultant, is very, very efficient. And this is what I say is you want to be a lazy CEO. I'm naturally quite lazy and just very efficient. So what did I do? I identified the input and output equations. The two things I needed to do if I was an estate agent was pick up the phone before anyone else, so I got all the leads coming through. And number two was control the lead flow. Now, all the leads came into a central computer every morning. So essentially what I would do is I'd get into work early before everyone else, swipe all the good leads, I would sell all the houses. That was as simple as it is. I then became manager, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this if all those things hadn't happened. So what should you be doing? Not looking to take shortcuts, some may say that is, but it's actually thinking outside the box. And this is where you have to understand the input and output equations, because for me, the inputs there that were driving the outputs, where if I take all the calls coming in as quickly as possible, I'm going to have all the viewings. If I have all the good leads coming in, I'm also going to get all the good viewings, so I'm going to make all the money. Now, if you run a fitness business, what are the inputs, what you do every day, that drive the outputs? So 1, we'll be making great content. 2, we'll be putting great stuff on your stories. 3, we'll be getting great client results and showcasing those. 4, we'll be running ads and getting those profitable. 5 would be maybe hiring and managing your team if you have one. Now, the first 3 are like the complete essentials. Post content, post stories, showcase client results. And when you've done these 3 things, essentially what you want to be doing is hammering messaging to get people to book calls. Because if we look about actually growing your fitness business, you need 2 things. You book sales calls, you close sales calls, and you want to do that as high volume as possible in terms of booking as many calls that show up, and then close them at as high price point as possible. That's how you make as much money as you can. Now, when we actually break this down, this comes into essentially what I like to call the Pareto principle. Now, the Pareto principle is essentially where 80% of the results in your business or in your life are from 20% of the actions. And even if you put that, for example, in terms of a fitness perspective, if I wanted to lose 10 kilos, what's the 20% of thing that I could do that's going to get 80% of the results? My nutrition, right? If I didn't really train that hard, didn't really train very well, and didn't sleep that great, but my nutrition was bang on exactly the calories I needed, I'd get 80% of the results. So what's the equivalent of that in the business? Is doing those things I said. Post content, post stories, message people, showcase great client results, get great client results, keep those clients on. When you think with that framework, it becomes very simple in terms of what you should be focusing on in your business. Because really to get your business to grow when you've got something like this and it's working, you do 2 things. 1, you do more of it, so you increase the volume. So maybe you can't do more outbound messages on Instagram. Maybe you get a second Instagram account. You do outbound messages on that. Maybe you use your missus' Instagram account. You do more messages on that. The second thing you do is you just get better, or your team gets better. And that brings me into the next thing I want to talk about, is that you want to focus on building the people and they build the business. And this is how you start to get what's called leverage. Now, leverage is where you've got huge amounts of people work for you and things are happening all the time. So as I'm filming this podcast right now, we've got 5 other editors editing all types of content. We've got 2 sales teams selling 2 different products. We've got 2 different fulfillment teams in our mastermind and fitness business, helping people get great results with their business or their fitness coaching. And I'm sitting here talking to you. And this is what you call a form of leverage, which is from people. And the other form of leverage we have is paid ads. And you may well have seen a lot of our ads if you follow me on social media. I guarantee you will have done. And at one point, when we were cranking fitness ads for Dubai, I think 3/4 of the population of Dubai had seen an ad from me. It was so bad that I got stopped in like Dubai Marina probably every day, being like, "Oh, I just saw your ad," or I was messaging on Instagram. And obviously it wasn't me, it was one of our team. But the big thing is, this is when you understand the most important thing in terms of the process with your business. When you have these other things in lockdown, you're looking to grow, traffic comes first. So best known beats best. If you can come first in market and people see you all the fucking time, and they're like, okay, well, I need to build my fitness business. I see this Charlie Johnson guy all the time. His clients are crushing it. He crushes it. He's really inspiring, motivating, and he knows what he's talking about. They're probably going to like reach out to me, or they're going to absorb our long form content, or they're going to get our free stuff. And this is when you start to pull people in. Now, what you want to think about is when you have the traffic dialed in, the second most important thing you then need to have is the sales process. And this is where so many people go wrong. I see, I don't want to use the word retard, but I see so many online coaches who are really good at making content. They get loads of views, but they're not even really monetizing. And it's not from a lack they don't want to, so they just don't know how. But that's an ignorance tax you're paying right now. And the reality is this: if you want to have a business that makes 20K, 30K a month, that's not that difficult. If you can do the first part and you can get some traffic, very, very simple to do. And in my opinion, if you want time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, which are the three things that are most important to me, and we help our clients get 7-figure scaling systems, this is the type of revenue you need to be at least 20 to 30K a month. Otherwise, respectfully, you're pissing into the wind, because life is going to get more expensive. And what you actually want to focus on doing is building wealth where you can actually buy assets that then provide you income. And this is the long-term strategy of why you need to think bigger about growing your business, so it's bigger than just you. And we spoke about actually building teams to build the business. If you don't actually grow your business bigger, you won't have a business. And this is what most people have. They have the golden handcuffs. They have a well-paid job. Whereas what you want is a business with people, systems, and leverage that can run without you. And to give an example of two of my clients who are actually a couple, Aaliyah and Adam, both went, I think, to Mauritius for like a week or 10 days. Both of them did no work at all. Nothing changed the revenue of the business at all. And Aaliyah actually said to me recently, she does about $150,000 a month, that she's bored and she doesn't know what to do because the business is running so well. I have now given her loads of other things to do to help her get to like 300K a month. But it's an example in terms of when you have a bigger business and it's running really well, you actually have less to do. And this is ultimately the game. Is you want to get an asset like a fitness business that then gives you income, gives you fulfillment, and then gives you freedom. And these are the key things you need to focus on when you're looking to try and scale your business, and not scale chaos, which is what most people do. And the main way we help people do that is we take the systems from our own multi-7-figure fitness business, CJ Coaching. We help plug those into other people's businesses and give those secrets away. And we're giving those secrets away on the podcast for free. Now, if you took value from this podcast, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave us a 5-star review, smash the like button. And if you want help in terms of scaling your own business, drop me a message with Scale on my main Instagram account at Charlie Johnson Fitness. Let me know where you're at and we can have a chat personally with myself in terms of how we can help you. And we'll see you next episode very soon.